Hi everybody, it's Stewart Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the second week of September 2017. And as you know, we have just completed our week-long September Spectacular, which was a very good.
It was spectacular, because we had spectacular people attending from all over the world.
And we had our OMG meetings in person. People came from Australia, New Zealand, and all over the place.
United Kingdom, Canada.
Right.
And of course the U.S.
Yes, and it was really quite an amazing 7 days of a lot of intense work and information. But, as most of you well know, there's been even more intense information and information going on out there. And that is, gosh, where do I begin? Of course, the big news is Hurricane Irma. There was Hurricane Harvey, there was Hurricane Katia and Jose, there was a big earthquake in Mexico. But if you look at a globe, those of you who have a map or a globe, and you plot these hurricanes and earthquakes where they originated and where they were heading, you will see a straight line across the northern rim of the Caribbean tectonic plate. So it looks to me like they're trying to activate something in that area. But symbolically, if we look at Hurricane Irma, we can see that it is going right up the phallic symbol of the United States,
which we have talked about for many years as sinking.
First, Harvey hit the scrotal symbolic area of the United States of Texas, and now you can look at the map and see what does Florida look like to you as far as the shape goes. It's the front part,
or the penis.
I wouldn't, your vulgar language, I wouldn't repeat such things, but what you are seeing is actually the emasculation of the United States. That's the symbolism of it. I know there are a lot of videos out there that explain the ELF and microwave pulse, which we actually did see on the map this time, and I appreciate those videos for pointing those out. I had seen those on internet for years, didn't know exactly what they were, but now I know they're microwave pulse, and you can actually see the pulses pulling and directing the hurricanes and the direction of where they were going. So that was very interesting, and we are seeing Florida, as of this recording, just before this recording, winds in Miami were approaching 100 miles per hour or 160 kilometers per hour. And the hurricane has gone through Key West as a Category 4 and is now working its way up the west coast of Florida. But the hurricane is twice the size of Hurricane Andrew of 1992, which was a Category 5 and was quite destructive. This hurricane is twice the size and will cover the entire state of Florida. Even if you're not in the direct path, you will have wind, rain, and flood. And according to the National Weather Service, there will be the storm surge before and after the hurricane actually hits because of the way the waves are moving. And they said not to be lose your I don't know the word to say. How you say in English when you get self-confident and you think you survive something.
Oh yes, that you have to be wary that there will be other things to follow.
Yes, so that if you stayed in your home and they told you do not stay in your home, this was the largest evacuation in U.S. history, and you should also understand that even when the winds abate, that the storm surge afterwards will cover the roof of your house. So even though the winds will calm down, the water will be pulled from the Gulf of Mexico, if you're on the west side, from the Atlantic Ocean on the other side, and you will drown if you stay in your home.
But you have to be careful with the water, because even 2 feet, they said, can disable your vehicle. So, and not only that, don't wade through the water, because there's alligators, poisonous snakes, and
there may even be sharks in there.
Yeah, so you have to be very careful. So hopefully you're out and you're safe, or that's all I can say, because if you stayed behind, unfortunately, it's not going to be easy.
Of course, the hurricane is an ongoing process right now, and we don't have all the information as of this recording. But by the next time that we speak to you, we will know what has happened. There could be hurricane force winds as far north as Atlanta, which as far as I know has never happened before. No, people, this has nothing to do with global warming. It is hurricane season, and hurricanes do occur, and there have been worse ones than this, and even a long time ago. But this one and the last one are obviously artificially generated, and of course,
Or enhanced.
And steered, because they seem to know exactly which way it's going to go, which way it's going to turn. And if you look at the weather patterns, the path makes absolutely no sense.
I also wanted to mention, I don't remember which day it was, but you had noted during our class that there were 3 celebrity deaths on that day.
Mm-hmm.
One was Troy Gentry, who was killed in a helicopter crash.
Only 50 years old.
Yeah, Don Williams, who was a country singer.
He was 78.
78. Right. And then we have Shiloh star Blake Heron, who was 35.
So if we add up the numbers, 50 is a 5, the 35 is an 8, and the 78 is a 15 or a 6. If you add that all up, it's a 19. 19 is Mother of Darkness number, and those of you who read my blogs know that I told you September was the Mother of Darkness energy, and so here we are, seeing 3 sacrificial energies in preparation for these hurricanes.
And not only that, but you also talked about it being a purifying and cleansing month. This was what you told everybody back in August, who as again reads our blogs as a member of our site. And so this has already been written and stated. And the fact is that, as we've talked about, the winds of change are cleansing and purifying. Now, we can have reactive or we can have proactive. And for those of you who we have told many times to leave Florida, and you went there anyway.
I warned you to leave Florida.
That's right. So now it's purifying and cleansing, and it becomes a reactive position, unfortunately.
And because of all the rain and the flooding that will occur and seep into the porous limestone, like chalk that's under the ground in Florida, that's really filled with caverns and open spaces, many, many sinkholes will open up.
It will continue to worsen there. So if you have an opportunity when it's done, if you have insurance, hopefully that covers, don't stay.
I don't think the insurance will cover.
I don't know what's going to happen, but anyway, again, our heartfelt prayers go out to all of you who are suffering through this right now, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And also, I wanted to mention that right after this, these 3 celebrities died,
yes.
Fox News host Eric Bolling, 19-year-old son died. His only child, 19 years old, died unexpectedly, and they're not telling us how that happened.
Also 19.
But I think of the name Balling, which reminds me of we talked about the astral entities, B-A-A-L. So while it's not quite spelled like that, it's still, to me, like could be a sacrifice to that. We talked about a lot of astral attacks on the U.S. and openings of portals and vortices, and in my opinion, this is another way that they're doing that, because that's what's happening down there in that particular area. That's why we have all the, again, poisonous snakes and alligators and really, I'm sorry, really horrible astral energies
Florida
in that area.
And Texas are very astral
yes.
in energy, and it makes sense to me that these things are occurring. But if there were 2 big hurricanes, I mean, there's going to be a third that will hit the U.S.
And I want to, before you move on from the hurricane news, just a couple of other quick things before you move on. And that is that it was interesting that there was a passenger ship called the Escape, which fled Miami with 4,000 people on board, and they don't know where they're going. But the captain says that they can outrun it. So what they did, because a lot of ships leave from that area, what a lot of ships did was they brought their passengers there, put them on this ship called the Escape, and now they've taken it and they don't know where they're even going. They're just saying they're trying to outrun the storm. So I found that interesting.
You can't outrun a storm like that.
But that's what they're claiming. And then the other thing is, I don't know if you saw that, I just saw this morning that now they're saying that Britain is going to be lashed with 70-mile-per-hour gales and thundery downpours for probably the next 3 days. So I found that interesting as well.
That's not unusual for Britain.
At this time of year?
They have that all the time.
All right, because I thought, well, here we have it in the U.S., now we have it in Britain, which is lots of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. All right, so go ahead.
And they won't know because they're all drunk anyway.
I have a British pub story, but I'm not going to tell you that yet.
Anyway, I want to talk about Israel a little bit because I found this a bit interesting. You know, we spoke about Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, how he's arrogant, he's an Israeli version of Trump, and his wife being indicted for misappropriation of government funds for lavish parties and furniture, etc. Well, they also have an interesting son, Yair Netanyahu, the son of the prime minister, who put an anti-Semitic image on his Facebook page to make fun of Jewish people, particularly, and I have to say, I admit I agree with him on this one, he made fun of the billionaire George Soros, the Hungarian Jew billionaire who lives in the United States. Now, what I found very interesting is that the news said that George Soros is a philanthropist who supports democratic movements and Human Rights Watch. Really? And I'm a big black woman, you know, who was a lesbian.
And head of NCAA.
Yeah.
P.
He is... he destroys countries, destroys financial institutions, he manipulates people. He's behind the Antifa movement in the United States and in Europe. He is not a philanthropist. He's an old, creepy something, which I won't even say here. But what I found very interesting is that the picture shows George Soros being manipulated by a gigantic reptilian lizard and then using people as puppets.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes, and so the picture refers to a neo-Nazi caricature showing that Jews are descendants of lizard people. Now, why would Benjamin Netanyahu's son put such a thing on there? Well, this upset some Israeli leaders. For example, former Prime Minister Ehud Barak tweeted, "This is what the child hears at home. What is it, genetics or mental illness?" First of all, he's not a child. He's 26 years old. That's number one. Number two, I'm sure he hears a lot outside of the home rather than in it.
And plus he sees it.
And he may not be a pleasant person, but he's not mentally ill. I think he's just very angry. But what made the Israelis even more angry is that Netanyahu's son's post was liked by David Duke, the former head of the Ku Klux Klan. So they said, how could an Israeli person whose father is a prime minister have a post that is liked by the Ku Klux Klan? Mm-hmm. You know why? I told you people, the Fourth Reich and Israel are in allegiance, and I told you this.
And it's all part of the show, which we discussed in detail at our class last week.
And by the way, I don't even think you know, I sent a communication to Israeli government telling them what I thought of some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. No, of course they don't answer me. Anyway, I found that was interesting. Now, going back to destruction and so-called natural disasters, scientists are saying now, after the Mexican earthquake, which was 8.2 on the Richter scale, they said it's possible for Southern California to be hit by an 8.2 earthquake. That would be very, very destructive to Los Angeles and all of Southern California. And they said that all the quakes that have hit California last century were much smaller than the one that was in Mexico this past week. Southern California's most recent megaquake was in 1857, and it was estimated to be only 7.8, and that was when there was hardly any people there. So if it hits now, it's going to be a very big problem. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, they said Southern California would feel even worse shaking if a magnitude 8.2 hit. It would be worse than the one in Mexico, and they said it would bring the intensity level to 10 for shaking, which is perceived by humans as extreme. And it said Southern California could be isolated for some time, and that there could be potentially explosive mix of pipelines carrying gasoline and natural gas and overhead electricity lines that would be destroyed, and the explosions would create craters, and potentially all of the western United States could lose power. And they also said there could be up to 100,000 landslides, and quite honestly, I think that people in Southern California need to watch out, because not is it possible, it's likely at any moment.
Remember what I told you, this is all reactive as a result of your mind patterns that have to be shaken up and cleansed out and purified. It's better to do the work proactively than have to go through these kind of things.
And I have been watching the maps, and the last week there's been a lot of earthquakes in Idaho, Wyoming, and even Utah. And I had warned people in Salt Lake City, there's going to be a big one in Salt Lake City. You're seeing the beginnings of it now. Salt Lake City's pretty much doomed. So I warned you. I warned Seattle. I warned LA, San Francisco.
Florida.
I warned Florida, and they didn't listen. Now they're paying the price for it. My conscience is clear. And all of those people on the internet who make fun and who criticize what I say, you know what? Some of these people are suffering right now from what I warned them against. Now they're paying the price. Okay. Not that I wish it on them, but you know, what ye reap, what ye sow, ye shall reap.
Yeah. So, moving right along then, I just wanted to mention, speaking of Russia, one of your favorite tropes.
How did I get this on there?
I don't know. But anyway, this was very interesting to me, and I'm sure has to be some kind of meaning in it, because a reporter actually asked Putin if that he was disappointed with President Donald Trump. And Putin answered saying, quote, "Your question sounds very naive. He is not my bride, neither am I his bride or groom." Now, don't you think that's a very odd statement?
Well, he was trying to make a point that he has nothing to do with him.
But it's interesting, bride and groom, because we're really talking about male and female, the merging of the two, some kind of ritual going on. So I found that interesting. Mm-hmm. Then going back on this Nazi theme, which again just does not die off, we have Great British Bake Off's Paul Hollywood. Apparently he is a TV chef.
In Britain?
Great British.
In Britain?
Yeah, that's where Great British would be.
I never heard of that term, Great British.
Great British
Bake-Offs. Or English.
Well, this is Great Britain. You've heard of the term Great Britain.
Yes, but you were the Scottish, Welsh, or English.
Well, now
not
it's
Great British.
Well, this is Great British, according to this article. Anyway, he stunned pub drinkers by showing up dressed in a pub before heading off to a party by wearing the outfit of a full Nazi officer uniform. Now, why would he do that? So apparently he had a peaked cap, a red swastika armband, an iron cross, and a badge featuring a white Nazi eagle. Did you know there's a white Nazi eagle?
Why not?
Anyway, he posed for a snap with a pal who was also in full German military uniform. So obviously he wanted this picture to be out there, which the press obliged, and now it's all out there.
So what's the point?
We don't know yet, do we? What we do know that they're all telling you about the Nazis out there. So that's not dying. Mm-hmm. And then, a little bit further away, let's talk aliens, perhaps. An immense black hole 100,000 times bigger than the sun has been discovered at the heart of the Milky Way. Apparently this is now 25,000 light years from Earth, they say. But it could help scientists uncover how stars, galaxies, and even life came to be in the universe. And according to reports, this newly discovered black hole could rank as the second largest ever seen in the Milky Way.
I've seen bigger black holes in people's heads.
And UFO watchers have been left baffled by 3 massive, what they're calling alien portals, which mysteriously appear below the International Space Station in bizarre footage. And I looked at this.
I saw a picture of that.
It says the video appears to show a trio of circular shapes flying across the Earth's atmosphere just below the space station. And then last week in Scotland, there were black rings floating in the sky near a motorway. These also appeared near the M9 in Linlithgow, Scotland, following similar sightings in West Yorkshire, the US, and Russia. And those are also very, very odd.
Oh, that reminds me that before the earthquake in Mexico, there were lights seen in the sky.
Flashing
lights, which they're calling earthquake lights, and I say it's from an ELF pulse that created the earthquake.
Yeah, so obviously they can do a lot of things. And then NASA, Mars rover, finds a chemical, which is boron, that indicates that living beings once called the red planet home. This is from NASA, a NASA report. They said that boron is a key ingredient for life. They found this on the surface, and that the discovery is a huge boost in the hunt for extraterrestrials and could back up a theory suggesting life on Mars may have been forced underground when disaster turned the planet into a frigid desert. This finding of boron bolsters the bizarre theory that life originated on Mars and was carried to Earth on an asteroid. Astronomer Caleb Scharf has previously claimed, quote, "We can find pieces of Mars here on Earth, and we suspect that there are pieces of Earth on Mars. If that material can carry living organisms on it, it's possible that we are Martian."
I know a lot of people who are Martians.
Then it says these hypotheses have forced scenarios in which officials have asked NASA experts whether life existed there in recent times. And I did report when Dana Rohrabacher, an American senator, publicly asked a project scientist overseeing NASA's Mars 2020 rover mission if aliens ever lived on the Martian surface.
And did she really expect a real answer?
It's a he. Dana's a he. Dana's a he.
Whatever.
It's a senator. He asked...
Maybe he or she would be insulted that you gave them a gender.
That's possible. He asked, you quote, "You have indicated that Mars was totally different thousands of years ago. Is it possible that there was a civilization on Mars thousands of years ago?" And NASA's Ken Farley responded to this question and said, quote, "So the evidence is that Mars was different billions of years ago, not thousands of years ago, and there's no evidence I'm aware of," unquote. The point is they are now addressing this. They always tell you, first of all, "No way, Jose," and then the next thing you know, it's "well, maybe," and then, "oh, yeah, it's truth." Now, this was also interesting because in Antarctica, Australian researchers studying glacial caves say they are so warm they could support plant and animal life. Apparently, researchers explored caves that could be as warm as 25 degrees Celsius or about 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very warm for Antarctica, and found DNA that leads to them to believe that they could actually be life living within the glaciers.
So it's just warm inside the caves or ice
Well,
caves.
what they're saying right now, of course this does changes as you know, that the work right now is going on Mount Erebus, which is an active volcano on Ross Island. They're claiming that steam from the volcano has actually hollowed out complex cave systems under the glacier, and DNA from algae, moss, and small animals have been found. So now they have to explore these caves more in depth, but co-researcher Dr. Charles Lee says, quote, "They're really difficult to identify, get to, and explore." And they're also telling you last month they announced that they found over 90 volcanoes in Antarctica, and they said that that could mean a complex system of interconnected cave systems underneath the ice.
Well, that's what the Fourth Reich found.
And as we say, they're still there.
And they are.
And they're under there. So, interesting that now they're starting to bring this forward publicly. And, of course, here we go on with some of my other stories relating to the upcoming establishment of New World religion. That a popular Paris park, Bois de Vincennes Park in Paris, is now allowing nudists to frolic in a special section.
Let's go.
Remember last time I told you about the ecosexuals that were like marrying dirt and so forth?
And rocks. And
so now they're calling about the trend, the popular trend of being naked outdoors is going to go forward into the middle of Paris.
That's always happened in Europe.
"It's true, Joy. It's one more freedom for naturists," said a member of the Paris Naturist Association. "It shows the city's broad-mindedness and will help change people's minds toward nudity, toward our values, and our respect for nature." Now this is interesting because the secluded nude spot opened last week and will remain on a trial basis until October 15th.
Might be a little nippy by then.
They're claiming that neither voyeurs nor exhibitionists will be permitted. So am I feeling...
How are you going to know?
Right. How are you going to stop them and say, "Are you a voyeur and exhibitionist?" Because if you are, you can't go in. Anyway, so what was interesting is that they're claiming that they're going to be doing more of this in Parisian open spaces.
Okay.
So they apparently in Paris, nudists even have a public pool at their disposal where they can swim naked 3 times a week. So anyway, it's very interesting. So next we move on to the Rochester Institute of Technology, which apparently gave a presentation for their students on proper sexual behavioral conduct. Now this I didn't know, and I guess again maybe I'm behind the time, but do you know what ROO stands for?
Spell it.
R-O-O, like in the Pooh story,
like
ROO.
Like a kangaroo.
Yeah, do you know what R-O-O stands for? Apparently it's an acronym for Rub One Out.
Okay.
You know what that means?
I think so.
Okay, well I didn't know till I looked it up. So anyway, apparently they showed a picture of Pooh's character ROO with the acronym was for Rub One Out, and they said that students should masturbate so they don't carry out sex attacks at night.
Is that what they do at night? They turn into like sex attackers?
They said this is Rochester Institute of Technology in New York. Now, this I think is ridiculous. So, a senior vice president for student affairs said that this was one slide of 77 shown, and therefore it was taken out of context. And she says that the overarching goal was to increase awareness and promote discussion about the ways we together can prevent instances of sexual misconduct on our campus. I think this is really ridiculous that they're doing this. I mean, this is first of all a cartoon character we're talking about. These are college-age students. This is 18 plus that they're having to watch this stuff, which is ridiculous. Anyway, apparently then they're director of the University Center for Women and Gender. What that means, I don't know, because it doesn't woman imply
Gender.
Being a female. Doesn't that a gender or not? I don't know. But for women and gender said, quote, at no point did we say that masturbation is a deterrent to rape, but if you find yourself in a sexual situation and your partner withdraws, then you should go home and masturbate rather than rape. Well, rape has nothing to do with sexuality. Rape has to do, it's a crime of power. So this is totally stupid, but here we go again, right? Now, speaking of stupidity, and of course I've been telling you about pedophilia, and we talked about this extensively in our September Spectacular class, about how the frequency for all of this is opening. I talked about the Bush twins not too long ago, about them kissing their children on the lips, amongst other things. Anyway, Stacey Solomon, I'm sure that must be a made-up stage name, who is a star of a show called Loose Women, who I have never heard of before, but it's all over the news.
Heard of it.
That apparently now her two boys, rather than sleep with them in her own bed, has put them in their own bunk bed. So this is news. She slept with them, one's 5, one's 9, and she has been sleeping with them the whole time. And I did report on Celine Dion, whose husband unfortunately passed away, who had become attached to her when she was 12 or 13 and he was in the 20s. Then when he passed away, apparently she slept with her sons, and maybe still is for all I know, and even bought an extra big bed to sleep with her sons. Now she put them in their own bunk bed, and she showed a picture of them, and she's kissing on the lips one of her children. I'm not sure which one. And then she went on to say that she still has baths with her children. And the oldest one is 9. Now these are boys. We have seen some female celebrities naked with their female children and kissing them on the lips. Now we don't have a, she actually has a picture of herself in the bathtub with her 2 boys, and they're all covered with bubbles. So of course you don't know what's underneath it, but the point is they're imprinting you to take your bath with mixed gender children. And so her oldest son, who's 9, said, "Oh, put the bubbles over your boobs, mother. I don't want to see it." And she compares that to having dinner and reading bedtime stories.
And she thinks that's funny.
It's normal. She's trying to say this is normal. So I'm telling you, this is not normal.
It's not. Okay,
and next, then here we go into our transgender story. And I'm kind of surprised they put this out there, although we always tell you, they tell you everything. There's a 12-year-old boy, and again, I don't know why all the Australian stories, but a 12-year-old boy who decided, oh, no, at 12, I guess he's 14 now. Is that right? No, he's 12, so it must be at 10. At 12, he had transitioned to female, but he changed his mind. So apparently he must have began this when he was 10. So he decided to transition to female, but then changed his mind. So his mother took him to a professional, I say that very loosely, who was then diagnosed him with gender dysphoria. So this is now a condition where a person feels distressed because there is a mismatch between their biological sex and the gender they identify with. So the professionals told this mother that her 10-year-old had gender dysphoria, and that they suggested that she give permission for the minor to begin his transition into becoming female. So they put him on hormones.
I thought he changed his mind.
Well, this was at 10. So they put him on the hormones. He grew his hair long. He took the hormones to block his puberty. And now, 2 years later, he started to question whether he made the right decision. So now he looked at his mother and said, "I'm not just sure that I am a girl." So he wants to stop his transition at 12.
Okay, well, that's okay.
But the point being is they shouldn't let these children do these things to start with.
I agree.
And they're confusing the children. And
on purpose.
Right, and the confusion is becoming normal now to them. They don't know if they're a boy, they don't know if they're a girl. And now the child is going to have to undergo, according to this, surgery.
I think that the doctor that she took him to should be arrested and charged with a crime against humanity.
They all should be who are doing this. It's horrible. Anyway, so now this child who's 12 has been developing breasts. He's got to have surgery to have that skin removed.
And the mother should also be put away and not allowed to have any more children.
But you know, the point is when if you're a parent and you don't know what to do and you're being told this and now you're confused, you know, we get our eggs from the country and sometimes the eggs are brown, the shells are brown or blue or green because they're different breeds of chickens lay different eggs. So people are concerned about having a brown egg, a blue egg, a green egg, even though it comes from a chicken, but they've never seen one before. They want a white shell because that's now what they consider normal. So all this stuff, which we've talked about before through the years, what they're telling you is normal is abnormal. And so what we teach you in our classes is to find out who and what you are, to read the frequency, to understand what's going on, and to be able to know for yourself. Self and your source. And that's it. So all this stuff that's out there is just absolutely ridiculous. So, and the reason that we have a membership on our site is not because we're a club, as some people have said, amongst other things.
There's always trolls out there.
There are trolls, and most people who will put their credit card in with their information are not out there just to say nasty things because they can, such as they can on Facebook very easily because it's free.
I know.
So, ours is less than $1 a day where you can interact with like-minded people, and Stewart and I will talk to you one-on-one on that side of our site. You get the inside scoop of our information, and the reason we do that is because no matter what you say, people are going to make fun of you for it or say things, so it doesn't really matter. So this is the way that we have pared things down a little bit, less than $1 a day. I'm sure if you go out and get a beer, or you get a burger, or you get greasy fries, you're probably spending more than $1 a day on that. So put some good mental food in here, you know. And we do a lot of things for our members, which I'm not going to go on to here, but we don't discuss them publicly because...
People attack what they fear.
Yes.
If they're afraid of the information, they attack the messenger. I understand that.
And they're afraid of the truth. You know, they want to believe what they want to believe, and therefore they do. So we talk a lot about not judging people, and we do our best not to judge ourselves. We do our best not to judge you. You know, whatever your life has brought you to this point may have been very stressful, difficult, challenged, and very reactive. We teach you to connect to your source. We have people of all faiths, of all walks of life, coming to read our information.
And all species.
Yes, coming to read our information so they can make sense of their life. And that's what Expansions is about. Expanding your mind, expanding your horizons, and going within to your source, and that's where you get the information from. So with that said, the next set of webinars actually begin on Tuesday, and you'll have to look on the website. September, they'll be on Tuesdays through the end of the year, a self-healing group of webinars, which again, very reasonably priced. Welcome to join those if you would like. Then we have in October our bus trip, which is full. You can't come on that with us anymore. And then?
In October, I will be in Europe.
And we will make that announcement with more details soon. November.
I'll be in Tampa if it's still there.
Okay, and then on the island of Nevis. Remember N. If you know anything about our work, archetype is for healing. So there is a very interesting healing center there. We will be participating in the Jade Center. That's the healing center there of the naturopath, the Dr. Charles McWilliams, amongst other titles that he holds. And we will be having an investiture there with, joining with the SMOC organization, Sacred Medical Order of the Knights of Hope. A very fascinating true history that's being uncovered, Atlantean healing frequency. We will be celebrating New Year's Eve there. We will be giving classes and tours. So check out our website for that. We have people signing up, and we have limited hotel space, which I have reserved at the Mount Nevis Hotel. I mentioned our name.
Which is a very beautiful place.
It's very beautiful, and just check out the website for that if you want to join us. And January is our most intense week-long class that we have, our Hyperspace Oversoul Extravaganza. So if you want to come, explore, investigate, be with like-minded people, and once you have taken that class, then you are eligible to apply for our Oversoul Mastermind group, which is also an amazing group of people. And this year we're going to be focusing on self-worth, self-value, self-confidence, and if you want to write your own story, your own book, we will have the platform available for that. We have our private Oversoul Mastermind group forum that you can be a part of, as well as many other opportunities. Too many to list. Visit our website, please. Okay.
And when we come back, we will have more details on the end result of the Florida hurricane and other disasters which may occur between now and then. So until next time, goodbye for now, and we'll see you then.
Stay safe. Bye.